Hello and welcome to the Girl Fit Method podcast. So on today's episode, we are going to be talking all things those around you, those people that support you, those people that don't support you throughout your fitness journey. And I happen to have with me some of the most supportive people in my life, my incredible team. Welcome, Vanessa, Kat, and Julie.
Hello.
Hi. So excited to have you guys on here, and we are really keen to cover this subject because it's a huge one. It can be make or break in your own fitness journey, those around you and the support that you have or the support that you don't have. So let's kick things off. Now, I might hand over to you, Vanessa. I guess if we can draw on our own experiences, were there times in your life when you were trying to make a change, whether good or bad, actually, when it came to your health and fitness journey, where those around you were potentially maybe not supportive?
Yeah, for sure. So I started my fitness journey actually my senior year of high school. So in high school, not many people are focusing too much on their fitness goals. And I was really determined to do so in the last year of high school and just really wanted that athletic physique that I was chasing. So when I started going to the gym a little bit more and started prioritizing my friends, watching when I was eating a little bit more, the friends that I did have in high school, they definitely were a little confused. I won't lie. It was very unlike me to, not participate in things I would usually participate in high school because I was focusing on my fitness journey and I was like, going to the gym instead of maybe hanging out with them every single day after school. And luckily, I got a good amount of support through it, which I'm extremely thankful for, and I'm still friends with them to this day. But I mean, the point is valid. They were definitely a little bit confused, and I think what we're going to definitely talk about is explaining why you are making certain changes, which is what I did and what I expressed to them, and just communication and explaining why it was important to me. Help them understand, this is just what she wants to do. Like, this is not because of, her body or X, Y, and Z. It's because she wants to feel good X, Y, and Z. So I think we're going to talk about it, but like I said, communication goes really far, but that's kind of my initial experience with like changing my habits because I was in high school and I was so much younger. I was 17. 17-year-olds don't really understand, and some people didn't understand, and I do not talk to them anymore. But that was kind of the situation I was in.
So those that are still your friends that you're still in contact with, it sounds to me like they were fairly supportive. They were just maybe potentially concerned on your motives to begin with, but then you kind of explained and then they were supportive. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is actually the people you want around you. And I think there's nothing wrong with second guessing or questioning someone's motives whenever they're making any kind of big decision in their life, especially when it comes to health and fitness, because unfortunately, it's very easy to fall into unhealthy habits when it comes to exercise and nutrition. And so questioning that from someone that's gone from doing nothing to completely overhauling their lifestyle, you could think, okay, hold on, I hope they're okay. But when you can actually explain your why and then they're supportive, I think that's a really healthy relationship. And we're going to talk about the opposite to that soon. But I would love to get Coach Kat, Coach Julie, either one of you, your own experiences with something potentially similar.
Yeah, I think for me, honestly, it's very similar to Vanessa's, where it's like if something even like when I did my own like reverse dieting journey, and I gained weight, which is totally normal. I think for me, what was really important, and similar to Vanessa, where it's just communicating. And I think that there sometimes is this opposing thought of like, well, if your body's changing, like nobody else should, you shouldn't have to explain it. It's like, which is true. You really don't have to, but I think that we can adopt that thought to the extreme where it's like, I can't tell them, like I can't explain it. And where that communication really comes in, where it's like, it's not your obligation to tell somebody why you're doing something. But at the same time, if it helps and like it even makes you feel better, because I remember I was getting self-conscious. I was like, like my body's obviously changing quite a bit. For me, it definitely needed that and it changed. And so I was feeling self-conscious and, I was like, I don't have to say something, but I am at liberty to like explain to somebody why this is happening, why it's changing. And I think like this idea that you need to just be super positive with what's going on and it's nobody else's business, can actually sometimes come in and make it more difficult for you when you really can just say, I don't know if you've noticed, or, it's like, you can talk about it. Like, I'm actually going through this journey right now. It's a little bit difficult. My body's changing and here's why I'm doing it. And here's the benefits of it. And then that's totally okay. Giving myself permission to explain why things are different, why things are changing with my body actually did a lot for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, before we talk about that, like, I think that's a great point. When I went through my most recent reverse diet and I gained a good amount of weight through it, I actually sat my family down and told them what I was going to do. And I sat my boyfriend down too. And I was like, listen, like, if I gain weight, which I probably am, please don't say anything to me.
Yes.
I'm aware I'm going to be gaining weight. I don't need you to tell me that I'm going to be gaining weight. I'm well aware. Please do not say anything to me. And they were free about it. And I think just having that conversation can be massive. And I think it's so helpful in just like your own mental health. And just like, if you need to gain weight, which I did, and Kat, you expressed that you did, like, cool. Like, if that's what you have to do for your health, like, go for it. Having that maybe a little bit awkward or uncomfortable conversation can really just make the process so much better.
Totally.
Such a good point, Vanessa. I was going to say, you almost want to get ahead of the game for those that are around you. If you know you're in a situation where like potentially you're going to be gaining weight and you're going to find if someone makes even the smallest comment about your body triggering to you, then kind of getting ahead of the game and going, hey, this is the situation. This is what's going to be going down. Please do not, comment on this body part or the fact that I am going to be gaining weight, because that's not going to be helpful. And that just comes down to good communication and communicating with those around you that are supportive. However, we don't always have people around us that are supportive, and this is where the issues come in. Before we move on, Julie, I just wanted to touch base with you. Have you experienced something similar?
Yeah, so I was around my family a lot at the time when I was, gaining weight. And they like knew like I needed to gain weight because I was severely underweight. But then it got to like a point of where like, okay, haven't you gained enough weight? And then it started to turn into like this negative thing where it's like, why are you still tracking your food? Why are you doing this? Like, and I was like, well, I still have like bigger goals in mind. So then like having to like place that boundary with them and be like, I want you to be a part of my life and I want like you to be involved, but I can't have you making these like negative connotations about my body or like what I'm doing, because then that's just going to negatively impact me and then kind of like make me second guess it almost, and that I'm like doing the right thing. So I was like, we can like talk about anything else, but just don't have it be centered around like my body and like what I'm doing.
It's so funny you say that, because what I'm thinking is your parents are coming from such a good place. They're trying to be supportive, but in fact, they're actually doing the opposite, but not meaning to. So their intentions, they're well intended, but the way that they're executing that is not helpful. And I think in those kinds of situations, and maybe we can touch on this a little bit more now, is that if you've obviously got a great relationship with your parents, so being able to communicate with them that, hey, like, can we just not bring up this subject? Like, you are not the people to help me throughout this time in my life. And I think that's okay. Like, the people around us who love us just might not be the people that can be our biggest supporters in certain areas and seasons of our life. And that's okay. Doesn't make them a bad person. Doesn't mean that their intentions are bad. It just means that they don't have the skill set or the understanding and empathy to understand exactly where you are, to go, hey, this comment is actually going to set this person back, or it's actually going to affect them in a negative light. So that's really great that you were able to communicate that with your parents. And I'd love now to kind of touch on, because this sort of stuff, this is great. Like, if we have people around us that are super supportive, we communicate with them effectively to let them know what we're doing, how they can best support us, and they listen to that and they follow through on that, then that's like amazing. They are the people that we want around us. However, that is not always the case. And especially when we have those around us that we love, family members, friends, partners, who are not supportive, it's almost like their words cut the deepest because we care so much about them. So I have a few experiences with this, but I'm going to hand it over to you guys. What have you experienced in your life, or who have you had in your life that hasn't been as supportive as you would have liked?
I'll start. Okay, so I am pretty close with both sides of my family, my mom's side and my dad's side. My immediate family is very supportive of me. My mom, my dad, my sister, my brother. My extended family, I think they're a little confused on why that I do what I do, why I track my food, why if I decide not to drink or eat something at a family party, it just raises an eyebrow. It's not more so something where it's like, you know, that they're like quote unquote hating on me or anything. It's just more so they're generally confused about what I do. And I guess like more than a lack of support, it's just lack of understanding, which I know we kind of talked about, but sometimes just not even having to explain yourself, be like, I don't want it, I'm good. Like I don't need to harp on it, and just like maybe limiting the time that I spend with them a little bit more if my goals are important to me, which they are. And like focusing on hanging out with them and doing things with them that maybe aren't so food focused, all that kind of stuff can be really helpful in terms of just like avoiding and like not having to speak on like exercise and nutrition and all that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah. Kat, were you going to say something? Sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was just agreeing with Vanessa. That was a great point. Yeah, I think, for myself, most of the people in my life were actually really super supportive. I'm honestly very blessed to like not have too many people be negative about what was going on. But I think like just even through the process, really learning the importance of boundaries, like what Vanessa said, and was leading to was, boundaries are really great because they're not meant to keep people out. They're actually supposed to help you keep people close, but in a way where it's healthy for both of you. And so setting boundaries is super, super important. And that's something that I've really learned through the process of like, okay, like I want to continue to be friends with you, be close to you, be able to, be like, have community with you, to be with you. And, when you do this, when you say this, I actually don't want to be with you. And I really want to separate myself from you. So here's the thing, like, this is a boundary. You can't talk to me like this. You can't talk about this to me. Like, this is just something that's out of bounds for our relationship because the way you approach it is unhealthy and it's actually hurtful for me. So if you want to hang out with me, if we still are going to spend time together, we got to find a way to work around this or to not like cross this boundary. And for me, that was super helpful because if they truly want to be with you, if they truly want to be your friend or, have a relationship with you in some way, they will respect that. And they'll be like, you know what, I actually really care about being with you. So I'm not going to, interject my opinion on this or make these comments or say these hurtful things to you. And that honestly was super helpful for me, just like in going through this whole process.
That's awesome. It's great that you've had people, even though I guess similar to Julie in that their comments sometimes aren't helpful, they're receptive to hearing feedback. Mm-hmm. I'm going to touch on the people that are not nice in this situation. So I've experienced a lot of this, and I know a lot of our clients have as well, and probably a lot of you listeners have. So I spent some time, as I've touched on in this podcast, where I had my own eating disorder when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I was really underweight. And there were people in my life that, out of potentially jealousy, wanting to maybe feeling threatened in some way, weren't supportive of me getting healthier. And that honestly looked like them making comments about my body when I was underweight as that being preferable and that being more attractive, and that, what am I doing? Am I letting myself go? And when you're in that mindset where you know that the behaviors that you have created around food and exercise are extremely unhealthy, and then someone makes a comment to you that, actually, I liked you better when you looked that way, that is incredibly damaging. Now, if you have people around you that love you, and, in this situation, these people were close to me. They knew what I was going through. So why on earth would they make a comment like that? And unfortunately, it's more reflective of the person that they are than the person than actually who you are, and whether their comment has any kind of truth to it. I don't believe that those comments that they made, they believed, but they were saying those comments to somewhat tear me down. And unfortunately, this is all too common. And it's like, okay, well, how do we How do we work with that, especially when these people are family members, when they're partners, and they are very, very close to you? It's a big topic. Julie, I'm going to hand over to you. Have you ever experienced negativity like this?
I would say maybe like a little bit, because back when I was initially starting to lose weight, just very like innocently, I did get a lot of comments like, wow, you look a lot better than when you were like 5 to 10 pounds heavier. But then like I started taking it too far. But that also kind of like messed with me a little bit too, because it was like, oh, if I keep losing weight, then everyone's just gonna assume like I'm just getting better and better and better. So I think at the end of the day, communication is just like the biggest thing you can do, is just like sit these people down and be like, I'm doing this for like my health and like for these reasons. So then they can maybe understand where you're coming from, instead of like them immediately attacking you. Because a lot of the times it is from them just not understanding what you're doing either. They just like want to know,
Yeah.
because they're like, because they like, some of it might be jealousy too, because they're like, oh, I wish I could look like you. So this is my way of like telling you like, oh, this is what I want, but you have it instead. So that's just like a really big thing, is just like communicating like what you're doing, because there's just such a like a lack of education when it comes to like fitness and just like nutrition itself, that a lot of the times people just like don't know. So they just
100%.
say what they want.
Yeah. And I think communication is key. However, there are some people that you will communicate this with, and because they've got malice, or whether there is jealousy, and I do want to touch on jealousy, because the majority of people that see you trying to better yourself and they are not taking that action to better themselves will see that as a threat. So they are 100% going to try to tear you down. Now, it's so easy for me to say, do you know what? Cut those people out of your life, which if you are in the position to, yes, hell yes, I want you to cut them out of your life. They should not be a part of your inner circle. However, how do you manage that if that's your mum? How do you manage that if that is your auntie, or if that's your best friend, or if that's your partner? And this is where things get really difficult. Going back to what Kat said around boundaries, I think boundaries are very important. And what I've had to learn in my life is that some people in my life that are very close to me that I can't cut out, I just need to understand that they're not going to get it. They're actually never going to get it. And do you know what? They're probably going to always, forever make comments that are unhelpful. And I have to figure out how I can cope with that effectively, because I actually can't cut those people out. And there are going to be people, for anyone that's listening, that have family members that are just not supportive. And that's going to come down to setting boundaries, so limiting the time that you're around them and the activities that you do around them, and then coming up with coping mechanisms and understanding and almost preparing yourself that, do you know what, this person's probably going to make a really unhelpful comment about my body, an opinion that I actually do not care about, and they don't have the right to let me know, but they feel like they will, right? And they will tell me that. I have to figure out how I can not let this affect me. And that can take some time. And I think setting yourself expectations and understanding that if you're going to somebody hoping that they're going to be supportive on a particular subject, health and fitness, they just might not have that in them. They just might not ever be that person. And you've got to be okay with that and understand, you know what, that person, their advice they give me, their opinion they give me, I just need to actually, it's got to be like water off a duck's back. It's got to just be like, well, whatever, in one ear, out the other, and it not sink into your heart, which is hard, but it's the only way to get around it when you actually cut those people out of your life. Really hard situation to be in, but please don't feel like you're alone. This is very, 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 very common. You've got to find your people that can support you throughout this process, that are going to be supportive with you and that understand where you're at. I just want to touch on as well, people's opinions and comments about your body, and why no one really has the right to comment on your body, but we'll tend to do it. And you know what? I've done it as well sometimes in the past, where I've gone, oh, wow, you look incredible. And it's like, damn it, why did I say that? You know, because someone maybe has lost weight and it's ingrained in us that it's almost sometimes just something we say. I'm just going to touch on why this can be an issue. And that is, you have no idea, in particular with weight loss, why someone has lost weight or what activities or habits they are using to lose weight. Just like you said, Julie, if that's an unhealthy, if they've created unhealthy habits for themselves to lose that weight, then all you're doing is you're reinforcing the fact that they're doing something good and they should continue to do that. And actually you're noticing that their value is increasing. Wow, you look incredible. Wow, like I see you now. And what does that do for the other person? Oh, okay. People are noticing me. Oh, wow, this feels really, really good. It reinforces that behavior and tells you, hey, I should continue to do this. I need to look this way in order to be seen. And that is so damaging.
Yeah, 100%. And I think going off that too, like being mindful of how far your comments can go in someone's mind. I mean, I'm sure we could all talk about things that have been said to us. I'm sure we've all had things said to us, whether it's positive, negative, whatever, that we can kind of harp on. And making sure that you're aware when you're commenting on someone's body or someone's commenting on your body, even if it's not from a negative place, that can stick with them for a very long period of time. And that can make them do things that are not so great or whatever, or change their whole life, So being mindful of what you say to people, and like that those words, even if they have, no meaning to you, quote unquote, in the moment, like it can mean something like a lot to somebody down the road. So just being mindful of like, hey, don't comment on what someone looks like, even if they're at the gym and they're in a sports bra and they seem confident or whatever it may be. Like, you never know what someone's doing behind closed doors. And it's just important that you just don't comment on people's bodies in general. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's so good. I think something too is like with what Julie said, I resonated with so much when she was talking about how when she lost weight, people were like, oh my gosh, you look so great. And I think sometimes that can point to a root issue that we have in ourselves, where the comments of other people give us our value. And that's kind of like that thing where it's like, don't comment on other people's bodies because you don't know how they're going to take it, but you actually have self-responsibility to know how you're going to take stuff like that. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt, or that, it sucks when people say something negative about you, or that it feels great when someone says something positive about you. But really getting to the root of it, of like, where does your identity come from? Are you confident within yourself? And do you define who you are, or do other people's opinions of you define who you are? Because that's going to make all the difference in the world with how you take those comments that keep coming, from the family members that just like won't stop saying them. It's like, okay, but they say that, but I actually get my identity from myself, and I think I'm pretty great. And regardless of what they think about my physical body or how things are changing right now, I know that I am this, or I am kind, or that, I'm actually working towards my health. I'm a responsible human being. Like, I have so much more to offer. And even that's just such a great practice to get into, is affirming those other things in you, like outside of, just waiting for other people to either build you up or tear you down, but really developing that identity in yourself.
100%. And I think like going back to what Natasha said, like way back when people in your life weren't supportive and they knew what you were doing too, like when you were getting those comments, you were like, well, I'm getting better for my health. I'm doing this and I'm, gaining weight or whatever it may be because I need to be healthy and because I need longevity within fitness. And when you get comments like that, if they are negative, positive, whatever, it's like, oh, you look better at X, Y, and Z when you were leaner, whatever, if you're going through a reverse diet or whatever, being like, well, I feel really good. And like, I rather feel good and like have energy and all these things that we talk about, the benefits of reverse dieting, rather than, having a six pack or whatever it may be, or just like being leaner, So I think that was important to touch on, Kat, and I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, awesome points. I also just want to touch on the reverse of that, because when someone has fat to lose in order to get healthier, those around them can also be challenged by that because they need to look in the mirror. And this is the thing, whenever somebody makes a decision, they make some big life decision, they step out in fear and they want to be a better person, people take that as a personal attack. And if someone's wanting to better themselves, then there are also comments that can be made around, oh, are you taking this too far? Oh, I kind of liked the way that you looked before. And that's actually not coming from a genuine place. It's coming from a place of fear from that other person, and that they feel like what they know they need to do, they don't have the guts to go and do it, but you're doing it now. And that's threatening to them. So that's also really important to keep in mind. It's not just about weight loss. It's not just about when weight loss is unhealthy. Sometimes, we need to lose weight, right, in order to get healthier. And those around us can be not happy about that either.
So true.
Yeah.
People get threatened by your desire to better yourself.
Absolutely. I loved what you touched on, Kat, regarding who you are and what your value is. I think back when I was younger, and this is a prime example of how unhelpful comments about someone's body image can be, but becoming a mum, there is a really horrible, there's this bounce back culture, right? Where you're kind of morally superior if you can bounce back to your pre-baby body. Now, during my pregnancy, I was very unwell and I actually lost a tremendous amount of weight. I was 10 kilos lighter than what I am today the day I gave birth to Sunny, which just tells you how unwell I was. I was severely underweight, very sick. And this is maybe something I will touch on as well in another podcast episode, but I ended up having postpartum depression as well. Very hard time for me the first 6 months of Sunny's life. And the amount of comments I got from women telling me how good I looked and how I managed to bounce back and stay so thin throughout my pregnancy. And I remember sitting back, and at this point, I didn't really care, right? I didn't take that as a compliment. I just knew that I was just surviving and that I was actually incredibly unhealthy. But I thought, what tremendous pressure that has put on me, if that actually was something that I valued at that point. You've got no idea what's going on. No idea, to the point where someone has just grown a human, and it's a part of the process of having a baby where you need to put body fat on. I wasn't able to breastfeed for very long because I had no fat on me. I couldn't even feed my child, right? So I was unhealthy. Yet that was being praised by women as being a good thing. And it's just so incredibly warped. It is so warped, our society. I just wanted to add that because that is like, it infuriates me when we feel like the expectations that society place on us, to the point where women who are growing a baby are at their most vulnerable, and we still place this silly expectation on them to look a certain way. Ridiculous.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I guess like the biggest takeaway here is just don't comment on someone's appearance without you really knowing them. And I think you should definitely comment on their on their discipline, on their energy levels, how vibrant they're looking, if they're looking stronger, if they're happier. These are all things that we want to comment on, because if they're going about this the right way, then they're going to see all of those attributes, right? If they are going about it in an unhealthy way, you're going to find that person's becoming quite withdrawn. They are absent from social events. Maybe they look fatigued all the time. Well, that's probably signs that, maybe they're not doing well as well. So just being really mindful of that. Great conversation, ladies. I want to head over to our listener questions now. I think we've covered it. I mean, we could probably talk about this quite a lot, and I am going to be bringing on a past client of mine who has a lot of experience in this, and I think she'll bring a lot of value to the conversation. But I know that a lot of you would resonate with this. So let us know, send us a DM, let us know if you're in that situation, and we can try and help you out and give you as much advice as we possibly can. All right, let's get into this. Isn't a question. So I've had some awesome questions come through. It is so hard to choose just one, but I'm going to answer this one. So how do I know when to stop increasing calories without jumping on the scale? So this person is obviously doing, and a big shout out, my apologies, to Instagram handle SHES.ginger. Monica. Hello, Monica. I love this question. So it's around your reverse diet. How to know when to stop increasing calories without weighing yourself. I'm currently at 2,000 calories. Finally got my period back. Well done after 3 months, but I still feel like I have low energy. So she's hit 2,000 calories. She doesn't want to weigh herself, which is totally fair enough. How does she know when to stop increasing her calories? I'm going to head this over to Julie. What do you reckon, Julie?
So I think we should look at like biofeedback, because I think that's the biggest thing. So if you're still feeling tired, clearly your body is still under fueled. So you should probably still try to increase your calories a little bit. And then just like looking at overall like hormone health. So you should be having a regular cycle. A lot of the times too, people go by like hunger hormones. So if you have normal hunger cues, which is a big one, and then just like sleep, if your body's recovering well, then usually you'll know you're kind of at maintenance. Also, if you don't want to weigh yourself, progress pictures are a really good tool. And then seeing how your clothes are fitting is also like another one. So that would just be my advice.
Great advice. Yeah, tracking other biofeedback to figure out whether you need to continue to increase your calories. If energy is low, I agree, Julie. I think she probably needs to bump up her calories. The funny thing is women think, oh, I got to 2,000. Like, that's it. Great. That's enough. No, it's actually like for a lot of women, 2,000 calories is not enough food. So don't be scared about pushing above 2,000. Kat, Vanessa, anything to add?
I think she hit it.
One thing I did want to touch on is like food focus. I think relationship with food and how much you're focusing on food throughout the day can actually be massive in terms of maybe if you're thinking about, if you finish your meal and you're thinking about your next meal as soon as you finish, maybe that's a sign that your calories are still pretty low. And maybe your body needs a little bit more than you may think. And also measurements. I know we talked about biofeedback. I think if you're not taking your scale weight measurements can be really helpful if that's not triggering for you.
Great point. Kat?
No, I totally agree with all those things. I think those are great. That's, I love the point that just because it's 2,000 calories doesn't mean that is the end goal. So many women need so much more than just 2,000 calories.
Especially if you're active. If you're an active woman, like 2,000 is the recommended for for any average woman. So on top of that, if you're moving your body, if you're exercising, then 2,000 maybe more. If you're a bigger person, I maintain on about 2,500. I would say the majority of us maintain around that. All of us. Yeah, I think so. Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like if your biofeedback, being in touch with your biofeedback is really, really important. Make that decision moving forward, but don't feel like you've hit 2,000, you can't increase anymore. But well done on getting your cycle back. That is incredible. Super happy for you, Monica. All right, guys, that is it from us. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much, Coach Vanessa, Coach Kat, Coach Julie. Loved having you on.
Thanks for having us.
Love being on.
My pleasure. Until next time.